Hello and welcome back to Deano's Garage. In the background there we have the VN800, which was the project that you may have seen before. That bike's now sold, in fact. I've just had the Triumph ST1050 delivered here, and I'll just show you around this bike quickly. Really nice condition actually. Got quite lucky with this because I hadn't really seen the bike in the flesh, as it were, only via eBay. But yeah, like I say, got lucky. I knew that the bike had an issue, and I'll show you what that issue is in just a second. But I think this is probably in the best colours, this one. It's in the Caspian metallic blue, so they call it Caspian blue. The problem with this is it did have a little drop. Now basically we've got a crack along here, comes along here to here. The trim's missing. I have tried on eBay actually to find a replacement trim, and at the moment it seems to be quite a tricky thing to find. There is a guy in Australia that has 3D printed these trims in 3 sections, and you just kind of glue them together, but I kind of didn't see really the point in buying a trim that's in 3 sections. So I'll keep looking, and you know, when it comes up I'll get the right one, maybe an actual proper one rather than something I have to sort of glue together. So what I'm about to do with this bike is take this side fairing off. I've loosened off the fixings already. And what I'm going to do is take the side fairing off, and I'm going to weld this crack. So if I just show you again this crack, doesn't look too bad until we move this around a bit, and you can see that this bit's quite loose and it's right on the edge here and it's cracked here. So what I've got to do is get inside and plastic weld this from the back using an iron, a soldering iron. So I should plastic weld this. Should be strong enough. I have had a little look on the internet, and internet on YouTube should I say, about plastic welding. I've got a few tips, so I shall try that out and show you how I get on with that. So yeah, so here it is. This is the latest addition to Deano's Garage, the Triumph Sprint ST1050, and I'm about to repair that fairing. Right, so welcome back. So there we go, that's the side fairing off. That took me not even 5 minutes. So this is what the Triumph ST looks like without its side fairing. I mean, you see things obviously when you start doing stuff like this. So on here, I mean, this bike's in good condition, but of course if no one's ever taken the side fairing off, you'll see things like this are a little bit rusty. Nothing that I'm too worried about. The fixings came undone very easily, so I know, you know, there's not too much corrosion in here. But that little pipe there is showing a little bit of rust, and you know, it might pay me whilst I've got this fairing off now just to go over that with a little bit of a wire brush, and then maybe touch it up with a little bit of hammerite paint, something like that. And even this bit here, this is basically the tube frame, for one of a better word I suppose. It just goes through and it fixes onto the engine, and it's for the radiator to hang off, and then this fixes through here into the side fairing. So again, you know, it just gives you an opportunity to look at your pipes, make sure they're not too rusty, look at, you know, the header nuts and bolts and make sure they're not all falling apart. I did have that 954 where I got sorted out in the 954, but all of these nuts on that 954 were so corroded I wasn't even going there with trying to take these threads out of here. I just kind of left it as it was, because it wasn't coming out, it wasn't blowing air out of there, but it would have been a heap of trouble if I started to go towards those. But like I say, it gives you those opportunities to really start looking at things, cleaning things as well. There's a little bit of paint coming off here, a little bit of bubble with paint. Another time what I'll do is just, you know, rub this down a bit and spray it up where it's had that fall. It's got a little graze in there, so just spray it up, really clean it up. I'll do that another time. So this is the side fairing, came off nice and easy. This is what I've got to weld on the back of to do the repair, and also here there was a lug, which would have been, I think, something like this, where it actually fixed to the actual chassis, but that's broken off this side, so it secures quite well with all the fixings that it has around, and then it fixes down here in this part here. Sorry for the focusing of this camera, but it takes a little while to sort of refocus. But this is what I'm going to weld now, and then I'll show you guys once I've finished the weld what that looks like, and hopefully showing you just how sort of strong it is on the front side. Okay, I'm going to get on with that now, and I'll come back to showing you guys what it looks like when I've finished. Right, so I'll just talk you through what I've done. Basically using, if you can just get this to catch the focus, but using a tip which is much like a screwdriver on your soldering iron. You don't want the pointy tip, that's no good at all. This has got a flat tip, and excuse me because it's just not focusing on that, which is so small, but basically this is like a flat tip. It just screws into the soldering iron, so it's much like a screwdriver. And what I did, thanks to Dalboy's Garage, which you'll see on YouTube, and he's got lots of great tips, and I've learnt a lot from Dalboy. If you push the tip into the plastic, and I'm really apologise for this focusing, but let me just see if I can help you out there. This doesn't like being too close, this camera, annoyingly. But yeah, if you push the tip into the plastic, and basically kind of this action, you're pushing, 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 and basically what you're doing is, as you go into the plastic, you're kind of stitching it together by melting it. And again, if you look on Dalboy's Garage on YouTube, you'll see how he does it. It's a much clearer process because he uses I think his daughter or somebody to film while Dalboy's doing it himself. I don't have that advantage, unfortunately, but yeah, basically you're stitching through, and you can kind of see there that I've stitched that. And also what I'm going to do is, another tip that Dalboy suggested was to use some zip ties and mount the zip ties to add plastic to the back of your weld. Now let's just check this, because I've just done this. Took me just a few minutes. So let's have a look at this. See if this flaps about like it did before. As you can see, I'm moving that, and that's not flapping about at all. What I did try to do before I stitched it, obviously, was to sort of set it right, so your plastic is sort of set right, the crack set right. There's a little bit of offset there. I sort of set it here, felt it here, and this is all quite smooth, but unfortunately this bit hasn't quite set. But what I got is, I got some Caspian blue touch-up pen, and I'll just run that just over that white edge anyway, because this isn't about perfection. If this was perfection, I would have stitched that, rubbed it all down, rubbed all this down, and completely resprayed the whole thing. I'm not about to do that. What I'm going to do is what I've done: repair the plastic and get a touch-up pen and just gently run along there and get rid of these little chips. So I've taken a bike which has cost me about £700–900 less than it should do, and I've very quickly repaired the damage. And got myself a nice bike for, like I say, about sort of £700–900 less than what it should be. So that's pretty much repaired. I'm going to just add a bit more plastic to the back of this with some zip ties to make it even stronger. But I think you can see, if I hold it up to the light, you can get a good idea there of how I've welded that plastic. You can see the little indentations as I've pushed the plastic along to sort of stitch it into place, and gone all the way along to as far as I can. So yeah, that's that. I'm pretty much repaired already, and that's taken me, what, 15–20 minutes, so no time at all to do that. Very easy repair. And so there you go, that's it finished now. You may be wondering what all the black is. Basically I've taken a zip tie, like this, just an ordinary zip tie, groove side down. Always use the groove side down, and then basically working with the soldering iron, push this slippery side and mount the plastic into the existing sort of stitch that you've already done. And as you can see, this is now solid, and the zip tie plastic is fused into the existing plastic, and it just reinforces all the way along that crack. Now what you could do if you really wanted to is you could also use a little bit of zip tie crossways like this, and again fuse it into the existing plastic, so you're in effect making stitches. If you've got any real weak points that you're really worried about, where you think there's going to be some stress, now where this is fixed on the bike, really this isn't a stress point as such. There's no fixings in this bit, so it's not being sort of held and fixed into position on this part. This is really just sort of flapping in the wind, so I don't think I'll need to stitch this, but you can cross stitch pieces, fusing pieces of plastic tie into the existing plastic, and that's really going to just kind of help brace and stitch across and just reinforce that plastic. But that's now really strong, really rigid, and I don't think that's going to go anywhere. I think the only way that would ever crack again is if it got clouted by something from the outside and then broke like any other part of the fairing could do. The crack went to about here, so I'll continue to stitch and continue to weld this in beyond that crack, because as you probably know from anything, you know, if you've had clothing and your stitching goes, if you don't stop at a point beyond where the stitching or, you know, whatever's cracked is, it will just then continue to crack all the way along this part here. So obviously I've gone beyond that point, stitched in and welded in this extra plastic, so it should reinforce, and done the same thing this end and put a good blob of black plastic of the zip tie into this corner to just try and reinforce that corner, so this bit's held nice and tight now. So that's it, that's the repair done. I should put this back on the bike now and should be good, all good. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks for watching Deano's Garage. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll be showing you these videos, updating some of these videos, and of course I'll be adding to some of these along the way.